Currently, there's a lot of guides out there showing you the strongest comps of each patch, but I realized that there's not a whole lot of information teaching players how to transition into those comps from the early game. In this video, I'm going to show you the strongest openers of this patch, how to play them, when to roll, what items to slam, and how to transition your opener into a mid or late game board. This is going to be a pretty general guide, so don't follow it exactly, but I would highly recommend you to use it as a template when you get the specific chosen mentioned in this video. With that being said, let's get started. So the first opener I'm going to talk about is Chosen Garen. If you get Chosen Garen and he's a Warlord, you want to play Nidalee and you want to play a second Vanguard. This gives you 2 Vanguards and 3 Warlords, and you also want a solo frontline Garen. And the reason for this is because what ends up happening is the enemy frontline is going to end up surrounding Garen, and he's going to get a really good spin-off onto the enemy team, usually winning you the fight. At level 4, you want to play a second Sharpshooter. Any Sharpshooter is good. In this case, I'm going to play Tristana. If you're playing Tristana, at level 5, you have the option to run 3 Dragonsoul. So in that situation, you would take out Wukong for BRAUM, and then you would play a 3rd Dragonsoul. If you're running this variation, you want to frontline your other Dragonsoul units because Tristana benefits the most from the Dragonsoul steroid. If you don't want to play Dragonsoul, you have the option of playing Teemo instead. Make sure to run a second Vanguard. And if you're playing Teemo, this opens you up to Spirit. So you could play something like a Kindred. But in my opinion, a better Spirit you could run is Yuumi. And if you're playing Yuumi, this opens you up to 2 Mystics. So you could just tech in a JANNA at level 6. And a board like this could usually get you to level 7 with a lot of HP. At stage 3-2, if you're very weak, you have 2 options. If you already have a Katarina, you could roll down for 6 Warlords to try and stabilize you, because in that situation, you're rolling for Jarvan and Vi. You could also roll to 2-star your board, and hopefully that will stabilize you as well. Items to look out for in this opener is Sunfire Cape on Garen, and AP items on Nidalee. So for example, Jeweled Gauntlet, Gwensu's is fine, and then you can put like Chalice and Zeke's on your Teemo, and that's an easy transition into Kayle. You could also pivot this board into Slayers, only if you have the items for it. So if you get Last Whisper or IE, Runans, you could put it on one of your Sharpshooters. The thing is, Teemo and Nidalee aren't really great item holders for Slayers, so in this situation, usually you want to be playing something like a Tristana, or even better, a SIVIR. And SIVIR is a really good item holder for Slayers because she's really good at holding Runans, she's really good at holding Last Whisper, IE, GA. At level 7, if you feel like you're weak, you could sell your Chosen for another 3-cost Chosen and slowly start transitioning your board into a Slayer or Kayle board, depending on what your items are. The other variation of this is if you get Vanguard Garen. If you're playing Vanguard Garen, you're playing Nidalee, same as before. And then you're playing a second Sharpshooter, so Tristana's fine. And then at level 4, you want to tech in a 3rd Warlord. So in this case, I'm just going to play something like a Jarvan. And if you're playing Jarvan, you want to play 2 Keepers just to round out the synergies. So Rakan's good. If you get Teemo, you could play Teemo over Tristana. And then if you're playing Teemo, you could play Spirit or something to give you 2 Spirit. Same deal as before. This is a really strong board, and it could win streak you all the way until stage 4-1 if you 2-star your units. The difference in this variation is at stage 3-2, you don't have the option to roll down for 6 Warlords, because if you're running Vanguard Garen instead of Warlord, you end up needing to look for Tryndamere, and you're probably not getting Tryndamere on your 3-2 roll down. Instead, you have the option to look for 4 Vanguards, so maybe something like this. In my opinion, this is a weaker variation because a lot of the early game damage comes from Dragon Soul and magic damage, and I think Vanguard isn't a really great synergy for that in the early game. So usually I don't like playing 4 Vanguard unless that's the only thing I have. So another really strong opener, I think right now in the current meta, is Chosen Cultist. So if you get Chosen Cultist, your level 3 board, you want to play 3 Cultists. For example, Chosen Elise, you want to play something like a TF. And then since you're playing Elise, you want to round out your synergy with 2 Keepers. So any Keeper's fine. So in this case, I'm just going to play something like a Jarvan. And then at level 4, just put in like a random unit, whatever you 2-star. Any unit's fine. You play Brand. And then if you're playing Brand, you could end up playing 3 mages at level 5. So you could tech in something like an Annie. Your early game at level 3 or 4 is not bad because you have the 3 Cultist synergy. But the strength to this comp lies in your mid game, and the reason why is because back in set 4, the 6th Cultist you're looking for was Jhin, which is a 4-cost unit. Now in set 4.5, it's SIVIR instead, which is a 3-cost unit. At stage 3-2, when you roll down, you have a very, very high chance to hit 6 Cultists because 6 of the Cultists are 1, 2, and 3-star. And if you have Chosen Cultist, you literally only need to hit 1 Kalista or 1 SIVIR to get 6 Cultists. And if you get 6 Cultists, you can win streak all the way until stage 4-1. So the game plan for this is just play your strongest board until stage 3-2. And then once you're at stage 3-2, you roll down until you hit 6 Cultists. So for example, my board is probably going to end up looking something like this. And a board like this is very, very strong at stage 3-2. If you hit Kalista, you could play Kalista instead over SIVIR. And if you're playing Kalista, you usually want to play a Duelist because Kalista will be your carry in that case. Just play your strongest board on your 3-2 roll down. If you 2-star your Jax, you want to play Jax and Kalista. If you 2-star your Keeper, you want to play 2 Keepers instead over Jax. And then at stage 4-1, you could roll down to 2-star your units, and that could get you to level 8 pretty easily, because 6 cultists doesn't scale off until stage 5. For items, KALISTA is a really good item holder for Kale, so you could put Runans, Gwinsu's, pretty much any AP on her, and she scales pretty well off attack speed and AP. Cultist is also a really good mid-game comp to hold for Slayer items. So if you get Slayer items, you could stack either KALISTA or SIVIR. I like SIVIR a little better for Slayer items. If you get SIVIR, you could stack like Runand on her, Last Whisper, QSS, IE. In my opinion, Cultist is an easy transition into Slayers because you're keeping Pike, you're sometimes keeping SIVIR, and if you get Aatrox, you could play Aatrox over one of your weaker Vanguards because Aatrox belongs in your late game Slayer board. And then at stage 5-1, whether you're playing Kale or Slayers, you just sell off all your useless units and pivot your whole board into a Kale or Slayer board depending on what items you have. The other variation of this is TF. If you get Chosen Cultist TF. I'm not going to go into this too much. It's pretty much the exact same deal as Chosen Elise. One big mistake that I see players make is when they're playing the 3 Cultist opener, I see them stacking TF. If you get Chosen TF, don't stack your TF. Instead, put your items on another unit for now. So just find like a random sharpshooter and just stack Tristana for the time being. The reason for this is because you want to stack KALISTA and SIVIR instead of TF. TF gets heavily outscaled at stage 3, but SIVIR and KALISTA scale really well into stage 5. Once you get your SIVIR or KALISTA, transfer over all your items from your Tristana or whatever unit you're using to hold your items onto them. So the next opener I'm going to talk about is Chosen Brawler. So in this case, we're going to play a Chosen Maokai. So Chosen Brawler by itself isn't very strong. Usually it's just a normal Chosen you're picking up if you're lacking a frontline, and then at stage 3-2, you just sell your Chosen and roll for a different one. There is an opener that makes Chosen Brawler very, very strong. That opener is if you get dealt a SHYVANA from your early game orb. If you get SHYVANA, always pick up the Chosen Brawler because at level 3, you could play 4 Brawlers. So I'm just going to put in something like a TAHM Kench. And then at level 5, you want to look to get 6 Brawlers in. So you want to look for Vi and you want to look for Nunu. This is a very, very strong board and it could probably win streak you all the way until stage 4-1. If you don't get dealt a SHYVANA, you could still play this board until stage 4-1 if you get Sunfire Cape. Sunfire Cape is very, very strong when you're playing Brawlers. So at stage 3-2, you usually want to roll down a little to find SHYVANA if you don't have it. If you don't have Sunfire Cape or SHYVANA at stage 3-2, you could consider selling your Chosen Maokai and rolling for a 3-cost Chosen to try and stabilize you. Otherwise, look for SHYVANA and a 3rd Elderwood, and this is a pretty good board to get you to level 7. Another variation to this board is if you take out Veigar, you take out TAHM Kench. Instead, you can play 3 DRAGONSOUL with SHYVANA carry. This only works if you have pretty good items on SHYVANA. So if you have Runans and Hodge, this is a pretty strong board. And then once you get to stage 4-1, you have 2 options. If you have really good items for SHYVANA, you could consider committing onto 8 Brawlers. So at level 7, you just roll down for 2-star SHYVANA and then you go fast 8. And then at level 8, you roll down until you hit set for 8 Brawlers. And you also roll down to try and 3-star your SHYVANA because that's your win con. If you don't have good items for SHYVANA at stage 4-1, you could consider pivoting into something else. So for example, you have Gwinsu's, you have Zeke's. You could consider pivoting your board into a Kale board at stage 4-1 or 5-1, depending on how healthy you are. Or if you have Slayer items, you could consider pivoting into a Slayer board as well. So another really strong opener I'm going to talk about is if you get Fortune TAHM Kench. There's 2 scenarios to this. The 2 scenarios are if you don't get a 3rd Fortune or if you do start with a 3rd Fortune. I'm going to go over the example where you start with a 3rd Fortune first. Say you have a Chosen TAHM Kench and an Annie. So in this case, what you want to do is just play your strongest board all the way until stage 3-2. So in this case, since I have TAHM Kench, I'm going to play Maokai. Because I have frontline units only, I need some backline damage. So I don't know, at level 4, you can play something like 2 sharpshooters. Just play your strongest board. Don't focus too much on trying to win. Just try and save as much HP as possible. If you're playing Fortune, usually your board is kind of weak. Sunfire Cape is a really good item on TAHM Kench because he's really tanky. And usually Sunfire Cape is able to kill off a few units before you lose. Another really good unit when playing Fortune is Diana. The reason why I like Diana is if you 2-star your Diana while playing Fortune, what ends up happening is Diana jumps to the backline and she assassinates 1 or 2 units before you lose the fight. That usually saves you like 4 HP a fight. If you 5 loss into the first neutral round with 75 HP left or 80, it's pretty much like a guaranteed top 3 or top 2 if you have Fortune. At stage 3-2, your board might look something like this. If you already cashed out, you want to sell your TAHM Kench and roll for a new Fortune. Fortune has diminishing returns after stage 3. You're going to take way too much HP for very little gains in Fortune. If you haven't cashed out yet, what you want to do is you want to roll down on stage 3-2 to try and 2-star your board. If you don't cash out before stage 4-1, you're gonna end up bleeding out and going 8th. So units you should be looking for on your 3-2 roll down are like 2-starring your SIVIR, Teemo, Yumi's fine. If you're playing Yumi, you can play something like a Mystic instead of Maokai. Something like a JANNA is okay too. Just play your strongest board at 3-2 if you haven't cashed out yet. At stage 3-5 or 3-6, if you still haven't cashed out, you need to roll down to like 10 or 0 gold and try and get your cash out. If you don't get your cash out before stage 4-1, you're going 8th. But I'm assuming you do get your cash out after you roll down. Once you get your cash out before stage 4-1, At stage 4-1, sell your chosen Tahm Kench and pivot your whole board into something else. Once you cash out already, you're probably going to have like 1 or 2 legendaries, like a Set or a Yone or an Azir. Just play around your legendaries at that point. Your board is going to be stronger than everyone else in the lobby, and you can just go fast 8, and you're going to be a lot more ahead of everyone because you'll have the fortune items, more extra gold, and you'll have more legendary units than everyone else. And from there, you just play for a 3rd or 2nd, or even 1st if you high ruled. So if you don't start with another fortune unit and you get fortune Tahm Kench, I would still take it. But what I would do is I'd probably pre-level for higher chances of getting Darius or Annie. If by the first carousel round you don't have a fortune unit, maybe try and pick one up from the carousel. And if by that point you still don't have 3 fortune, you should probably aim to sell your Tahm Kench at stage 3-2 and roll for a new chosen. Because you already wasted the first 3 stages from your fortune chosen. Usually it's not worth it to try and keep this. If you still don't have a chosen, you're most likely on a 3-loss streak. You usually want to force the 2 losses until the next neutral round to 3-2. So you have enough money to roll down at stage 3-2 to stabilize you. So another really strong opener you could play is Tristana. In my opinion, Dragonsoul is a stronger variation to her chosen. So if you're playing Dragonsoul Tristana, you usually want to play something like a BRAUM. BRAUM is the best early game Dragonsoul unit you could play with Tristana. And if you're playing BRAUM for your level 3, you could either tech in a Vanguard or a Sharpshooter. In this case, I'm just going to tech in a Vanguard. And then at level 4, you want to play 2 Sharpshooters. And then at level 5, what you could do is if you're playing Teemo, you could tech in Spirit. So just play Diana or something. And then if you get a better Spirit, you could play Kindred or Yuumi. If you're playing Yuumi, you could play Janna as well for 2 Mystic. And for items, I think Guinsoo's really good on Tristana. RFC is fine. Runans is okay. Morello's good. Last Whisper. Tristana is just a really good unit to hold all your items. She's really flexible in what items you can put on her. And depending on what items you put on her, you can pivot your whole board into a Slayer board or a Kale board. At level 6, if you have chosen Tristana, you're probably stable. But at level 7 is where you want to make the decision on whether or not you want to sell your Tristana to roll for a new 3-cost chosen. But if you're healthy at 7, you could just fast 8 and then pivot your whole board into a Kale or Slayer board. The other variation to this is if you get Sharpshooter Tristana instead. So if you get Sharpshooter Tristana, you still want to play Dragonsoul because Dragonsoul is the most broken trait in the early game right now. Make sure you frontline your brand because you want Tristana to be getting the Dragonsoul steroid because she's the one that benefits the most from it. If you're playing BRAUM, you want a 2nd Vanguard as usual, so Wukong's good. At level 5, you could just play a 5th unit. You could be anything, just play a random 3-cost unit, wherever you find. And then at level 6, you have the option to play 4 Sharpshooters instead of 2. So you can play Teemo, and you can play something like a SIVIR for 4 Sharpshooters, 2 Vanguard, and 3 Dragonsoul. You also have the option of taking out Dragonsoul for 2 Mystic, something like this. Just play your strongest board. Chosen Tristana, even if it's Sharpshooter, usually stabilizes you all the way until stage 4-1. And then at stage 4-1, you could decide whether or not you want to roll for a new chosen or not. So another good opener I want to talk about is Duelist. So Duelist by itself is actually kind of very weak, but it could be very strong if you get dealt a Kalista from your opening orbs. At level 3, I would play 4 Duelists, so I play something like a Jax. And then since I'm playing Jax, I'd play something like a Wukong at level 4. Because Wukong gives Divine. And then if I'm playing Wukong, I want 2 Vanguards, so I could tech in a BRAUM at level 5. I also need Enlighten, so Janna's fine too. So I could play Janna at level 6. And if I'm playing Janna, I could just play a Mystic at level 7. Or I could take out 2 Vanguards and play Mystic instead. And then if I'm playing Yuumi, instead of Wukong, you could play a Spirit. A lot of different variations to this, but the core to this is getting Kalista. Because Kalista by herself in 4 Duelists is a very, very strong unit. And not only that, but she's a really strong item holder for a lot of the meta items in the game. So for example, Kalista's best in slot item, in my opinion, is Runans. She's also a pretty decent holder for RFC or Guinsoo's. If you get Runans, you could pivot this board easily into a Slayer board at level 8. Or if you get a Guinsoo's or RFC, you can pivot this board into a Kale board at level 8. Usually this board is pretty stable at stage 3-2. And at stage 4-1, it could still be stable. You need to roll down to 2-star your board. So you want 2-star Jax, 2-star Fiora. Ideally, you need 2-star Kalista to stabilize you at 4-1, or you're just going to take way too much damage. And then at stage 5-1, depending on your items, pivot your whole board into a Slayer or a Kale board. So now I'm going to talk about the 2-cost Chosens. So Chosen Annie is one of the best 2-cost Chosens you could get. And the reason why is due to her traits. So if you get Chosen Fortune, you can just refer to my explanation on Tahm Kench before. It's pretty much the same thing. So the other variation is if you get Chosen Mage Annie. If you get Chosen Mage Annie, you want to play a 3rd mage. So any mage is fine. You can just play something like a Brand. And then at level 4, you want to try and play 5 mages. So TF is good. Veigar is good. If you get Chosen Annie, you have the option to play reroll mages. So at level 7, just slow roll until you 3-star Annie, 3-star Lulu, 3-star Veigar. This is actually a very strong late game board if you could 3-star everything, because Annie 3-star is actually like one of the most broken units in the game. If you don't decide to play reroll mages at level 7 or level 8, you could sell your Annie and just pivot into a standard Elderwood Aesol board if you get the Elderwood spat, or you could just play some variation of Aesol with 4 Vanguards. Doesn't really matter, but usually if you're playing 7 mages, you're going to have a lot of AP items. You most likely want to be playing something that involves Aesol. Chosen Janna is also very good. If you get Chosen Janna, Enlighten. If you get Enlighten, you can play 4 Enlighten like Irelia or Fiora. Just play your strongest board. Chosen Janna could literally solo carry your board until stage 4-1. So another really strong 2-cost Chosen is Vladimir. Vladimir Chosen is just a really strong unit on his own. You could just stack AP on him and he could literally solo carry your fights. If you get Cultist Vladimir Chosen, you want to play around 6 Cultists on stage 3-2 like I mentioned before. If you get Siphoner Vladimir, it's very strong as well. If you get Vladimir, you usually want to be playing around 3 Cultists, so probably SIVIR, maybe something like an ELISE. And if you're playing ELISE, you want 2 Keepers, so Jarvan's okay too. And if you're playing SIVIR, you want 2 Sharpshooters in, so Nidalee's fine, or even better, you get Teemo in. And if you're playing Teemo, you want 2 Spirit in, so Kindred's fine too. And in this case, you want to stack all your attack speed and AD items on your SIVIR, or whatever other carry you're running, and you want to stack all your AP items on your Vladimir. On stage 7, this board is probably strong enough to get you to level 8. If not, you want to roll down a little to 2-star your board, and then at level 8, you sell your Vladimir Chosen and roll for a new one and flip your whole board into something else. So the last really strong 2-cost Chosen I'm going to talk about is BRAUM. BRAUM is like one of the strongest early game units you could get. If you're playing DRAGONSOUL BRAUM, just play Tristana, because DRAGONSOUL is busted early. And you can just refer to my DRAGONSOUL Tristana explanation early if you get a DRAGONSOUL BRAUM, because it's pretty much the same thing, except you have a 2-star BRAUM instead of a 2-star Tristana. And a board like this could usually stabilize you all the way until stage 4-1 or even 5-1. Vanguard BRAUM is pretty much the same deal, but since you only have 2 DRAGONSOUL, you want to play a third one for brand, and you want to play... You have the option to play 4 Vanguards. Again, you can refer to my previous explanation on DRAGONSOUL Tristana. So finally, I'm going to be talking about the strong 3-cost Chosens. Usually, you're going to be playing around a 3-cost Chosen when you want to switch your 1-cost Chosen to a 3-cost Chosen on stage 3-2 if you were previously very weak. The other situation is if you're loose streaking into stage 3-2, you're going to have 50 gold to roll down at stage 3-2 to stabilize you, and in that case, you want a 3-star Chosen to win streak you all the way until stage 4 or 5. One really strong 3-cost Chosen you can get is SIVIR. If you get Cultist SIVIR, you could try playing around 6 Cultists, as I mentioned before, or you could just play 3 Cultists and just play your strongest board. So if you're playing 3 Cultists, you want something like a Pike maybe, and then you want some sort of front line. So I don't know, you could play something like Keepers, so Elise is fine, and Jarvan's fine. If you're running Elise, you don't need Pike. And if you're playing Cultist SIVIR, you want 2 Sharpshooters, so Teemo's good. And if you're playing Teemo, you want Spirit in, so Yuumi. And if you're playing Yuumi, you want something like a Mystic. And this is a pretty strong board you could roll down for at stage 3-2. But on your 3-2 roll downs, don't go for any specific comp. Just roll down and play whatever you 2-star and play your strongest board. Another very strong Chosen you could get at stage 3-2 is Kindred. So Kindred, if you get Spirit Kindred, you could play around 4 Spirit. You could play Yuumi, and you play Teemo. And if you're playing Yuumi, you want Mystic, so I like Janna as usual. And if you're playing Janna and you're rolling down at 3-2, you're usually going to find something like an Irelia. And then if you're playing Irelia, you want like another Divine unit. Jax is a very good frontline unit that I like to pick up mid-game. And a board like this could probably get you to stage 4-1. And at stage 4-1, if you're not stable, you want to roll down to 2-star the rest of your units like Yuumi, Janna, Teemo, Jax, Irelia. At stage 5-1, you could either stick with playing your Kindred for the rest of the game or roll down and roll for a new Chosen if you have a lot of money. The other variation to Chosen Kindred is if you get Executioner. In this case, you don't want to be playing around 4 Spirit. Instead, you just want to play around 2. My go-to is Yuumi. Then you play Janna, and then since you're playing Jax, you could just play a random duelist. So I don't know, you could play a KALISTA or something. Kindred is a very good item holder for Kayle. So if you put a Gwynsu's on her, you could probably pivot your board into a Kayle comp later. Or you could decide to play Kindred carry for the rest of the game and try and 3-star your Kindred. And at level 8, since you already have Executioner Kindred, you could just play a Kayle and a Xayah for 4 Executioner, because 4 Executioner is really strong right now. So another Chosen you're looking out for on stage 3-2 is NEEKO. If you get a Chosen NEEKO, one of your options is to play Fabled. I'm not an expert on this comp. If you really want to know how to play this comp, I suggest you watch another video. I just want to let you know that NEEKO is a very good option to be looking for at stage 3-2 if you have the items to support the Fabled comp. And since we're talking about NEEKO, another really good 3-star comp you could pivot into, Keeper KENNEN. So if you get chosen Kennen, you could consider committing onto the keeper build. So in a build like this, you want to be playing 4 keepers. And then since you have a very good front line already, you need some type of damage. When you're rolling down on 3-2, often you're going to find something like a SIVIR or a KINDRED. So in this case, I'm just going to play SIVIR. And if you're playing SIVIR, you want a second sharpshooter. And then because you're playing Teemo, you want another spirit. So KINDRED is good as well for extra damage. This board probably stabilizes you until stage 4-1, and on stage 4-1 you roll down to 2-star your board, and at that point you could just go level 8 from there, and then hopefully try to find a Xayah 2 at level 8 and play around your Xayah, and then you go for 6 keepers, something along the lines of that. So another really good 3-cost chosen you could get at stage 3-2 is SHYVANA. If you have Brawler SHYVANA, you could look to play around 6 Brawlers, or if you don't get 6 Brawlers at stage 3-2, you can play around 4 Brawlers. And then if you have Maokai or Nunu, you could play a 3rd Elderwood. Veigar is fine. And if you're playing Veigar, you want something like 3 mages, so Brand and Lulu. Alternatively, instead of mages, you could play 3 Dragonsoul instead. So you could play something like a Brand. And you could also play something like a Tristana for 3 Dragonsoul. And for a 6th unit, you could just play a 3rd Elderwood. So for example, Rakan is fine too. And at level 7, you want to add in a 7th unit. But you need to play your SHYVANA until level 8, and then at level 8 you can decide whether or not you want to commit onto 3-starring your SHYVANA, or you could sell your SHYVANA and look for a different chosen and commit into a Kale or Slayer or a Soul board depending on your items. The other variation to SHYVANA is if you get Dragonsoul SHYVANA. If you get Dragonsoul SHYVANA, again you want to play through Dragonsoul, so I don't know, you play something like a BRAUM, and then because you're playing SHYVANA, you want a second Brawler, so Maokai's fine, and then you want to find some backline damage somehow. So I don't know, you can play something like a KINDRED, and then since you're playing KINDRED, you get Spirit in, so you can play Yuumi. And then if you're playing Yuumi, you want JANNA in for 2 Mystic. If you get Dragonsoul SHYVANA, at stage 4-1, you have the option to roll down to go for 6 Diesel. And then once you get 6 Dragonsoul, that board could probably stabilize you all the way until level 8, and then you can figure out what you want to do next. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below and subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do more videos like this in the future. I don't plan on doing a video like this every single patch because a lot of these are going to stay the same. But if there's a huge meta shift in the game, then I'll do another one immediately and update you guys on what I think the strongest openers are in the game. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.